The time is 5:1. I call the Human Rights Commission meeting to order. I'll start with roll call with everybody in the group and then online. Military District 4 present.
Campbell Silverman at large.
Jamie Andrews, 5 present.
Then David.
David Lita, District 6.
Lisa.
Sorry, Commissioner Satini, I'm here.
And Everett Bacon at large.
Thank you guys. And then I have Commissioner Jaramillo as absent and Commissioner Nicole as absent. Okay, well, I will turn the time. We've got someone from the recorder's office here just joining online who just want to pop in and say hi. Spencer, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I won't take too long of your time. I'm feeling under the weather, but I'm Spencer. I was hired a year ago by the recorder's office, and gosh, this light is so bright. There we go. And I'm in the recorder's office, and my role is predominantly focused on boards and commissions and how I can develop any tools or resources to make your lives a little bit easier, make sure that you have the resources to be effective, whether that is on the onboarding side, on the training side. So a couple of other things that I oversee are the compensation, looking at ways we can recognize you guys. And so apologies in advance if you see a bunch of emails come through annually, whether that is on the auditing our OPMA compliance, or even just asking for your feedback. But I'm excited to be here, and I thank you all for your work. And if there's any, again, tools that you think would be beneficial for your time on the board, I'm always open ears and see what we can do to help you guys out. So thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. So yourself. Have you been in the recorder's office for a while, or did you just?
Yeah, so my year is actually today with the recorder's office. And I spent 6.5 years up with Park City Municipal. And so I've just kind of wanted a change, came down here, and it's been a good year so far. But excited to see where it goes.
Okay, well, thanks for coming in to introduce yourself. Are there any questions of the commissioners or Spencer? Well, thanks, Spencer. And I will move to the next item on your agenda, District 2 vacancy update. Michelle, do you want to talk about that? Yeah, I think we can talk about it. So Pam and I have been interviewing some people who apply for the District 2 vacancy. There's 2 individuals that we met with who we've been interviewing. There's one in particular who we're looking at moving forward with. We're just waiting to check some of his references to make sure that it's a good fit. He lives over in the gateway, so it's right on the boundaries of District 2 because they just extended it. So we will be checking those references, and then hopefully he can join us at our next meeting. And yeah, he's got a little bit of a background in State Department work, and he's it'll be a good fit. So hopefully you guys can meet him at the next.
Yeah, like a former US diplomat.
Yeah.
Just military background, just something we haven't seen on the commission yet.
Yeah. Okay, I will move to the next item. Agenda, adopting the January 2026 meetings. Could I get a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Silverman, seconded by Jennifer Glenn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I meant to say aye too, and I do not oppose.
And then Commissioner Reagan. And then we do have somebody from the public here today. Would you like to introduce yourself and let us know?
Sorry, I was dealing with the mute button. I'm in favor.
Oh, You're okay. Thanks, Edward.
Hi, I am the adoring public. My name is Christina Roth, and I am the chair of East Liberty Park Community Organization, which is a District 5 community organization that houses East High School. So I've been following along for years, but I just decided to come to a meeting and sit here and listen to y'all tonight.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Please, the Copper Hills, or which?
East.
East Liberty.
East Liberty Park.
Okay, perfect, there you go.
Or you can just say, oh,
Yeah. no problem.
Oh, okay.
So one thing I wanted to mention is that I also do the Random Ministry Festival. And we provide free opportunities for governmental organizations to table. So the application's up, it's free to apply, and we will automatically accept your organization here if somebody wants to, you know, run a booth, a table, or if you want to like collaborate with somebody else in Salt Lake City to run a table.
What's the date of this group fair?
It's the 19th of September this year.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. We have Roxanne here from the mayor's office, who is over refugees and new Americans. We invited Roxanne, she's going to give a little bit of a brief update of what's going on in the city regarding to some of these issues, and then we have some questions. It was what I did Michelle relay to kind of we were.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. Roxana Ariana. And I'm actually not housed in Canaan, so community neighborhoods.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm going to it was
Okay.
so, but I will go ahead and share what is going on or what I've been working on. Let's start with that. How about that? Just because
I'm sure it's a lot.
we only have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But, so first let me start with two programs that I work with. And that is, as you probably already know about, the Know Your Neighbor. So that program to be a city, the city picked it up. So it's a city only program now. We're still working with the state in some sort of MOU so they can continue to refer refugees to us, refugee clients, and basically Know Your Neighbor partners matches probably a better word, volunteers with refugee community members all over the state. And that's the reason why we have this relationship with the state, because they're able to refer anyone, whatever, if you go into those communities and find cheers. So that program, the program manager, I think he took on to another decision. So I took that at the beginning of the year, and we've had pretty much a volunteer come through every day since the beginning of the year. It's incredible. It used to go from maybe 2 volunteers per month, and now people are they want to help. They want to find a way to put all these emotions to action. So it's been incredibly encouraging to have that. So to kind of ride that wave of people wanting to contribute, we are reworking the program a little bit more specific in terms of connecting with those volunteers better. And what that means is, you know, having rather than just sending them a once-a-month email saying, hey, this is an opportunity, we'll start doing things like, you know, a newsletter saying, how's it going? Or here we are, more of a back and forth. And we are going to focus on the active volunteers because there's over 1,000 people registered, but not 1,000 people are actually friends. So we are going to focus on those active volunteers and help become that another link in the community, right? So, and it's just such a great program. And we want it to be a house party in terms of, especially right now, okay, that brings me into the refugee community. There's no, I can't say there's no new refugees. The program has passed. There are some new refugees who are, they're mostly, from certain areas, mostly from South Africa. And some can still come, but they have to make their way here. The programs have costs. So, there's that argument, who are you helping? There's still people here. Over 70,000 refugees have been resettled in Utah since the program. Not but since the program, resettlement program. It started. So there's people who can be helped in the community. So that program is going well. There's two of us. I'm the manager for the program, so I try to get the word out, go to take events, get people to know so they can think, oh, I know this person who could use a friend with anything. And going to those match meetings is really something, because here you have someone from the Republic of Congo who speaks a very small dialect, and here you are with the family and a scientist from the EU, and they're trying to build this connection. And it's just beautiful. There's all sorts of examples of that. So that program is one that really want to harness that enthusiasm and that want of energy to go positive energy and help somehow. So I would ask that you recommend it and share about this program just so we can have a better.
Question.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you've taken it over from the state, but you're still accepting referrals from outside the city for that program?
Yes, so that because it is just a state program, then it would just be helping refugees in the city, right? So having an MOU with the state or with any other partner who's outside of Salt Lake, we can have this understanding that we will share information. So they will provide information of the refugees who have gone through the system, who've been vetted, and then we can, and they also do have help with background for the volunteers. Yeah.
That was, and so were you recruiting volunteers outside of Salt Lake City then?
We recruit when we need to. Yes, when we need to. So we put the program out there and then people will call and say, I heard about this program. So then all those folks that have registered, then we send those volunteer opportunities. And they hear about the program in different ways, through partners. Excuse me. And then they will reach to us.
Right. Because a lot of refugees are not necessarily living in Salt Lake.
Exactly.
Because of the cost of housing.
Yes.
So
Yes,
they may have received resettlement services.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
they don't actually reside in Salt Lake.
Yes, and that's why we need partners, because otherwise we wouldn't have the referrals we need,
Right.
or the volunteers.
And so you do background checks, so the state helps those. And then what other training do the volunteers receive in terms of working with this refugee population?
That's a great question. So, so we have three options of fingerprinting, right? Background check is fully the volunteers. When they sign up, we ask them, what are you interested in? What activities do you like to do? Just who they are. So they send all of that. And then we find someone, let's say somebody who's like, I speak, I don't know, Dari. I want to, I'm a literature, kinds of volunteers. So then the first step is set up a fingerprinting, and we do it ourselves, or we send it to the AWS or a third party. So once that happens, they're clear, then we do an orientation. And that orientation is done by Phoenix, who is the volunteer coordinator. And it just gives an overview of who is the refugee, why do people come here, what is the process, so trauma informed context of who they are, do's and don'ts. And that's another aspect of how we want to kind of strengthen the program. Partner with another nonprofit deals with trauma informed training, so that we can provide that to volunteers. And then, so once they go through that and the background is clear, the coordinator will go with them and have a meeting with the refugee, the volunteer, and the person. And then there's rules, right? Like they can't drive the refugee, there's no drive leave. They have to be, they sign conduct, work, privacy, all that. So there's a process to get them operated before they actually meet the client.
That sounds like a cool program.
It's really,
And I guess one other question, because I think it's really challenging for volunteers not to sort of maintain sometimes boundaries, not
Yes.
things for the clients or, insert themselves into their lives in certain ways. So
Yes.
is there sort of a regular check-in? Because obviously if you're having a really large number of this
Right.
situation, that's a lot
right. So that
to make sure that people are sort of following the guidelines.
Yeah.
and overstepping some of those things.
yeah, so during orientation, we go through all that. And when we were partners with the state, the state forms our refugee service office are very specific and detailed. So like you will not do X, Y, Z. Nothing like the imagination. It's like you are signing this if you're keeping a record of it. And then the city has a force as well. And then that we have just created a form where they can report their hours. So it's say, wow, how many hours volunteer last year, not last year, last month. And what great, what didn't, what do you need? So if you're trying to, again, make it more one-on-one. Because that has been kind of an oversight, because there was a staff, so. But now that's what we're gonna home in and those active volunteers, so we can actually manage that work and help them. So
So it's a largely a peer support, really.
it can be, let's see, we have some folks who want to get their CNA.
Yeah.
So they want to pass it, they have a hard time, either maybe they do great with the practical test.
Yeah.
They can't get the written test, GED test. Let's see, tutoring for, student. I don't know, it's not doing well in math.
I'd be curious, what are some of the things that you're seeing with all these new refugees coming over from South Africa? Are there like things that people are looking for in some of these like supports?
We haven't seen them
Oh.
yet.
Okay, so they're.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
What's the majority population that's kind of being served right now?
Afghans are a big number, they a big number, right? I know that we had some the Republic of Congo,
Yeah.
Sudanese. And sometimes there's folks who are older and are just at home bored, or they, everybody else is working, so there's no one there for them. Or single mom of 5 who has no outlet, so all kinds. And we really want male volunteers.
Oh, really?
Yes, because most of the volunteers are female. And there is a cultural aspect to it.
Sure.
But whenever with the Phoenix and the other day, we have a unicorn and it's a male volunteer who.
They're that rare.
Yeah. Who speaks, I don't know, Arabic or something, and wants to. We had a volunteer. We had a refugee who didn't know how to ride a bike, and we had a volunteer come forward, and it's like, I'll take that on. So anything that you can think of. And the idea is the way the program came about was to fill those social integration gaps. So that's what we're focusing on and continuing, but that's not the
The only thing that's
right, yeah.
I'd be curious about the biggest thing that you guys are seeing right now, or is it just so case by case basis?
It's very specific. Let me see. We have a couple of Venezuelan young women who want to get their GED because maybe they missed their senior year because of age or what their birthday was. People wanting to advance into or being into communities or community college. So.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see a lot of Afrikaners. Or because our experience has been that they generally don't. English, they have tireless education, and they're not really interested in our services. Just the ones that are weak.
Yeah. So far, I believe that IRC mentioned over the last refugee providers meeting that they think it will be seeing something.
Yeah.
So, but not
A lot
really.
of moving to Texas.
Interesting time to be doing this work, so.
Yeah. Yes, let's see, and right now I guess that we're talking about refugees. It's groups like the Ukrainian community are concerned. I mean, everybody's concerned, right? Like, because now refugees who haven't applied for that change of status for a green card could be in danger of being stopped. Because now everybody's really vetted twice. So that's a fear of even going to the family appointment. So, and community is, also, even though they came for a different path, they're also concerned. So there's a lot of fear about what's going to, so, refugees, the big beautiful bill, there are some concerns with SNAP. You have to have your green card in order to qualify for SNAP. There are exceptions. So there are about, I believe, 230 families who might be affected by that. So the Refugee Services Office is reviewing all those cases to connect them to resources and find a way. There's some families that heavily rely on that, so it's a bit scary.
Question, and if it's okay to change gears a little bit, but I think we're here on a certain time. So you're with Cam, so you're more with the community side of things. How much work are you doing on the policy side of things right now with the mayor's office?
So, I share what I see and think
Got it.
could
Be helpful.
help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so more of an advisory standpoint.
Right, right. So then, because I can't go and write a policy
Yeah.
without, so I'm in the informing and advising, suggesting role of this is what's happening.
Okay.
So it was move on more
Yeah.
to anyway. There was immigrants, right? But again, there's so many different ways folks come through. So in the immigrant community, I want to tell you about the PATH program. So last year, when things started to ramp up, it was a kind of everything, well, I mean, things change every day. You're still waiting for something to drop in the news. So, the idea of helping folks here in Salt Lake City who can move to that next step of getting their permanent status, I'm sorry, to become citizens. And be at a better spot if something were to happen and make sense, families or you know, someone in their family. We did this PATH program, which is, we call it the Future Citizens, Salt Lake City Future Citizens PATH program. And basically it's just, we're part of the two organizations and we are taking folks, through the process of becoming a citizen, and it covers. We, you know, that city stopping, we are partnering with legal folks. Tomas, stranger out of BYU, that they have an office at the Rose Park Neighborhood Center, and then the English Skill Learning Center. And they give citizenship classes and then house at Rose Park Neighborhood Center. And then the lodge provides with the filing. So because of the timing, it's very difficult to get folks to come out and apply. So it was a more go drop leaflets and information. So at the end of the day, let's say somebody asked me, how many people have applied? I would say over 100 folks, right? We only had room for 50 because of the pilot program. However, of those 100 people, there's only about 15 from Salt Lake City. And then either, let's say 5 or 6 were like, you know what, this is just, I'm not ready for this. I'm too scared. I can't do this.
And you're serving people outside of like city as
No.
well, only Salt Lake. Okay.
Just Salt Lake because of the way the parliament was written.
And what's been the timeline of this pilot program?
So started last October.
Okay,
And classes ended in December, so it's like 6 weeks, no, I'm sorry, 12 weeks. It's a 12-week program and classes run 12 weeks. And then while they're doing that, they are meeting with an attorney, a pro bono attorney, and getting their application submitted and all their paperwork. At the end, once they get everything submitted and all of that, we ask them to give back to the community by volunteering for 20 hours, anywhere they want. And that was just, you know, a way to like get them engaged and connected. However, the problem is, again, people are coming from outside Salt Lake City, because even though the numbers say that there's at least, and I'm gonna be conservative here, 5,000 people in Salt Lake City who qualify for citizenship, who are ready to become citizens. It's all bigger for. So, so the numbers are there, but they either, you know, somebody said, you know, I don't need it. When I would go on campus, I am comfortable with my green card. I believe to be, I don't know, it's my citizenship, all of that, so. There is folks out there who want to become citizens, but because it's some program.
I can imagine there's a lot of fear around that right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the people who, this remainder that are not eligible for the Salt Lake City program, are they still being referred like to the ESLC
Yes.
as their citizenship program?
Yes.
Because they obviously serve countywide and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so whenever someone reaches out, I said, I'm so sorry. I need to be within Salt Lake City limits. You can look at the website. However, you can still attend any of those citizenship classes. And again, folks were trying to get it really fast before October 20th. So they wouldn't have to take the new test with 128 questions. But very few were able to do that. And then I said, because nonprofits can still help you, right? And they sometimes have scholarships, so they might be able to help you with half of the cost of that informant, which is the citizenship application. So people are still being, but guided to these resources. So again, the people are afraid. So unless they know you and you're like, no, don't worry. But then that also turns into, can you please help me fill out an application? Yeah, I can't. So those are everyday phone calls where you would have to, I have to say, no, sorry, no, the city doesn't do that.
How has your guys' approach changed given the current federal landscape? Is that putting, that means you guys have to be careful or about the way you're doing things and how are you ensuring residents essentially like? We do have some of the fear. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still doing it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So.
Has that pathway changed? Like, is it becoming more difficult?
Yes, it is becoming more difficult, especially if you're from one of those countries.
Yeah.
Who are vetted more closely. And there's our new restrictions, or some people will need to go and get a letter of support that they might not, their character, that they might not have needed. So yes, it's hard. There's a bigger process. There's more questions now. Yes, it is.
Is there any like real world risk for some of these communities engaging with you guys? I mean, when they start to go through the process, does it put off any sort of?
I mean, if they're documented, the government already has all of their information, right? It's like, we talk about this every day at work and people are like, yeah, you're sharing your data with us, but the fact that you came as an immigrant or refugee, the fact that you have a green card, or you have an EAD, or you have any of these things, TPS, whatever you might have.
Yeah.
You're on their radar.
Right.
And actually by not getting citizenship, you're giving yourself more echoes. I think the other thing though, to answer your question also, Will, is that certain people from certain countries, their applications are just not going right away.
Right. Right.
People are still being encouraged to apply for both green cards and citizenship. It's just that not everybody's applications are being processed, depending on where they're from.
Right. And so it has, yes, there's definitely more at stake. And and even if you're here, living something, then you're like, well, what about me? Is that me, even though I'm a law-abiding citizen? So it's stressful.
Yeah, I'm sure. Curious, how much have you been working with the administration, or do you play a role much in? I mean, a lot of these conversations regarding potential ICE facilities coming into Salt Lake. I'm curious if there are levers that, or you've been in conversations with the city of kind of what actions may be being taken to maybe combat some of those things, or if there's areas of policy that you guys have been looking at. Or I know it's a delicate conversation. So
Yes.
in a delicate way, but would love to understand what you guys are, where you're moving to.
Yes, it's definitely a very delicate conversation.
Sure.
Given the nature of where we are
Yes.
and what the city represents in terms of is standing in comparison to the rest of the state. Good job. Sure, but that doesn't, don't or anything else. You have to find ways to, let's say,
Yeah.
ways to work around it still. Get that point across that people are people and the city's role is to protect you regardless of your status, right? So, yes, those questions have been discussed, and what I found very helpful is to get the front facing folks, like front desk, to log some of those protocols, so then we can get an idea of what's out there, right? And I'm sure you know this, but in the capital city, there's this, I don't know, thought process that you are gonna make a decision for everyone.
Yeah.
So people are watching, and so you have to be strategic as to
For sure.
what gets said and gets done. But that doesn't mean that you'll do anything,
Of
right?
course.
And she said, this brings me to the second point of vice, right? The education piece. What can a local government do? What authority does a local government have? And so we've gone through those questions. So what we did is put, and it's very basic, put those in an FAQ on the website that asks questions about a facility, that local government does not have authority of a federal entity agency.
Yeah.
So that's
I completely agree.
right. So there's those education pieces that I think will help us get on the same page and to do things that we can.
For sure. I'm curious if there's I'm sure you guys are doing a lot of work in this area and have had a lot of conversations, but I'm wondering if there's anything on our side of things as Human Rights Commission that would be like, ask for having some of these conversations. Would just be curious, in what way maybe we could be helpful to some of what's going on.
Yes, I think you can be very helpful.
Yes.
And I know that, well, did you wanna?
Sure. So what we could do is we could invite chair, vice chair to a conversation. We couldn't have a quorum. But we could invite you all to a meeting with the administration and council. Good. On that, what some realistic pieces to bring you into the conversation. Insert that.
Okay, and it sounds like there's maybe a little bit of that.
So, like, yes.
Yes,
So what I
yes.
was with that was that, yes, you do have a role to make, become part of the conversation, and say, listen, we truly believe this is it. And I know you wanted to. I mean, it's the top issue, right? Like, so, yes, there is room there. I can't think of anyone. I feel comfortable saying that you're not going to turn away if you request a meeting of what is happening. What can we do? And again, it comes back to that education and transparency part, where you can ask these questions. What is it that we can do? What can we do and why? And can we get realistic about what's needed out there? And it's a conversation, right? Like, that way you know this could be done or not be done. It's not about promising, yes, we'll get that done,
Okay.
right? It's about figuring out so the public knows that there's that transparency,
Okay,
or what can be done and what can't be done.
that makes sense.
I have two related separate, like, are you? You know, the neighbor know your neighbor program, with the pathway program. Are you providing like any know your rights type information to folks so that they are vulnerable to possible detention, not only know your rights, but like a lot of the organizations that we work are doing safety planning with vulnerable folks so that, for example, they make sure that they have photos of all their documents on their phone. They have a trusted person who's not at risk, who holds on to the original documents or know where they are, this kinds of things, so that if something were to happen, and like what would happen to their kids at school, like having somebody be designated to pick the kids up at school, or, you know, these kinds of things.
Yeah,
And so it seems like some of this information, especially like your mainstream community members that are welcoming other new Americans, could help facilitate some of that information.
yes, so, the city. Well, I say, talking about my word. My word, what I've taken the approach of is better for it to come from a community organization than a government person, right? I mean, I will tell you, I care about you guys who work for local government, right? And so what the strategy, or I guess the way that I went with that, is partnering with folks like the Utah Advocacy, Immigrant Advocacy Coalition, and have, you know, they have other partners who put together know your rights information, emergency plans. And I think that's where it's a big strength that we could all just be tied together. So when we're ready, if something were to happen, but also not only thinking that way, right? Because things are happening. So, but also having that very tight network where you can rely on each other. Like, I can't do that because it's not going to be effective, but you can, and here's how I can help you. So, so we have that information on our website. And so that is kind of the way that we want folks to say, you have questions about something, here's the information to share that, so find how to get that information about it, so someone needs it. But yes, it's out there. And
Right, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel.
exactly.
It's a lot of things are doing
Right.
stuff. It's just that if they come through you, like the volunteer, they don't necessarily know about IRAP or
Exactly.
organizations that are doing
Right.
this work. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's finding those ways where, you know, a team of one or two can become a whole team, yeah, with arms, like think of the smallest city. Yeah. Okay, a partnership, yes.
Just ask a question. So we, East Liberty Park, we hosted a Know Your Rights event at East High School for students and their parents. Because, you know, obviously a lot of the kids at East come from the west side, they get bused across the city. So, it was all fine and good, because the pro bono lawyers came and, you know, said how things were. But then 5 minutes later, it changed. It was pretty clear to the lawyers that the information they were going to provide was not going to stay factual very long.
Right.
Right. So, so I was just wondering if you guys are still struggling at that level where in real time things are changing so fast that the partners even are having a hard time providing realistic and up-to-date.
Yes, and no, I mean, no, because you continue to do the work regardless, right?
Right, yeah.
Yes, we hear about it all the time,
Which is so fast.
just something always comes up.
I was just gonna add, I think the other issue is just simply about the laws as they currently are not being adhered.
That's what that was exactly.
And so you can't predict, right?
Right.
It's, which is why emergency plans and things like that are so important, because you can't make assumptions based on what is lawful or not.
I think one thing that's really helpful is when if you host an event like that again or whatever, share it out, sending links to some of the organizations that are updating their information regularly so that you don't print out like a flyer that becomes stale in 2 days, but rather you refer them to a website that's really being by one of the organizations that's really at the forefront of updating this information.
We sent that to you, like, to us.
Right.
So, like, I think we'll work together.
Right, and so that way, because it is really hard to keep.
So that's
That's a
what we
change.
recommend for community groups, is just continue to just link back to the kind of people who are fresh on the ground.
Right, I mean, there's even people who will go out and check on a home that they just heard something happen. Right, and some people will go and knock at the door and say, is everybody okay? So there's a little bit of everything, in terms of people trying to help. You mentioned, the policy side, it's like the detention center or some of that, and it's not new, other cities I've had to deal with.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw what the mayor said or did.
Yeah.
And there are zoning laws,
Yes.
some ordinances that just can't do that.
Yeah.
There's a law in place.
Of course.
And, so, yes,
Yes. There are levels. Yeah.
right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
So there's some ways to get to not always, but to get to that place where you can, do something.
Okay. One thing that I know we got some other things to get to.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, you're totally okay. It's a big conversation. But I would imagine you guys are getting a lot of calls from residents and maybe people trying to report some things as far as potential misconduct in some of these agencies. And I see here that you guys had kind of answered in here, but are you guys getting a lot of reports of potential misconduct from federal agencies? And I mean, we talked about some of these also being followed, but I'm curious if you guys think of those.
Okay, so you mean you was in the mayor's office or?
I think the city at large, and
Okay.
I'm even curious where those would be coming through.
So, I reached out to BD and they don't track that,
They don't track.
that information, but that is.
It is.
Right, right.
comes
So,
through.
I was looking at that question as to,
Was there any sort of a sense if it was coming through though? I know they're not tracking it. Was there any sort of a sense?
no, there was no sense.
And
Right.
it would be PD, most likely than those.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. So because people call the mayor's office, they may call the counselor, right? So not necessarily.
Okay.
Because often when the PD is
Yeah.
connected, right? And that's another misconception. There's no connection there. Like people don't get a call and say, PD doesn't get a call. Or the city is saying, we're coming. There's no connection there. So, but there are calls to the front desk that say, yes, bring a detention center. There are questions, there are calls that say, you know, why haven't you deported this person that's doing X, Y, and Z? And so, and there's also questions as, you need to stop this. So that's, I have control of that, but I can ask about those laws. And I don't know, because they would have to be, I bet some important, right? Like somebody would have to call and say, hey, I just had a door kicked. You know, I don't know how. Yeah, but it would happen, so.
And it sounds like, as far as TV's role with that there. I don't know if maybe, it sounds like you maybe have a conversation with that, if they didn't indicate if there had been any reports of that. It sounds like they're not tracking it at large, but like reports coming through.
My question to that to the specific,
Yeah.
and not speak for them is, do you track?
Go ahead, you just
You
specific.
track, and the answer was no.
Okay.
And then if, you know, one of your questions was whether that would be helpful,
Okay, yes,
right?
yes, yeah,
And, you asked that question,
I
right?
did ask that question.
Okay. I'm a fan of data. I am a believer of data, and in these times where things are so unexpected and change all the time, when you have something to track, whether it's misconduct or, you know, a break of like you're overstepping of the jurisdiction or law, however you cross, where you don't have the authority, then you know, not necessarily,
Yeah.
but data is helpful. Data is helpful to, let's say there were 1,000 incidents of things happening. And you didn't have them, and you had 2 videos, right? Like 998 other incidents were not recorded or were there for you to say, look, this happened. So I don't think data, so I believe is helpful.
Okay.
So did you say there's no way to track right now, though? Is that what I thought? You're just saying there's not?
No, not no way. It's not.
There's nothing in place.
It's not tracked. It's not tracked. I think it would be difficult because it would have to be self-reported, right? Like if people would have to reach out.
And we don't.
And people may not call the city at all. They may call a community organization
Right.
or an attorney or something else. I mean, I did. You know, when it's concentrated in a location, it's easier. So there was an article that I sent you guys that about people being detained at the courthouse, and that the county sheriffs are very unhappy because the ICE agents are not necessarily identifying themselves. They're misrepresenting themselves. They're sort of not necessarily treating the sheriffs even with respect that are there. So like, obviously, if it's happening in a set location, like in the courthouse, it's easier to identify when it's happening. Obviously, if it's happening out in the community where someone's either at someone's home or just whatever, at a restaurant, at a shop, at their where they work or whatever, Home Depot, whatever it may be, it's so hard to have any way of knowing about that, and especially if there was some way to consider different organizations that are tracking and receiving reports could consolidate theirs as well.
And there's so much distrust with government.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, the city falls in, well, we know that the city doesn't have the same,
Values.
right?
Yes.
Definitely to put it good. A lot of our community members aren't gonna.
And they don't distinguish one
Right.
entity from.
They're not gonna necessarily reach out to the city, because, yeah, it's all from. Did anyone online have a question?
And I had a question. It's pretty direct, and I'm sorry if you've already discussed this. The audio is not the best for us participating online. There's a bit of an echo in the room. I think it's just the hard surfaces. My question is, how do you see this commission being able to help you do your work and still do so within the bounds of the law?
That is a wonderful question, David. I think
That it requires a meeting with the chair and vice chair, right?
Right,
And
Administration.
right.
right, it's a different, I think it's a longer conversation, David, that needs to happen.
Because I can only advise or suggest or recommend.
Right.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it comes down to having a discussion with, you know, the executive powers, right, and the yeah, two makers, right, to figure out what is possible and what isn't, right? Because I mean, I can sit here and say we should do this and that. But if it doesn't make any sense within what a local government can do, right, it's just me hearing myself talk. Right, but so. Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so I think you guys. Sorry, I think you folks could help in a lot of different ways, and I am so glad that you are here and ready and have it ready to get involved.
And we appreciate you for coming and navigating these conversations.
No, it's a problem. I'm sorry it didn't come sooner. But you know, education, transparency and funding, is what I will leave you with. If all or if some of those are.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to leave us with or highlight for?
No, just thank you, and please do reach out if you have questions. You are all in the community and are experts, and you're already like, I could use all the ideas and suggestions and questions. Because after a while, your brain it gets stuck in the what's next, and what am I doing with my life? Existential. So yes, I already took over an hour, so I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry you can't hear very well.
I can hear, it's just that there's a bit of it's very hard surfaces and it's a very high ceiling. So sound tends to bounce around a bit. And that makes it a little bit difficult for audio.
And unfortunately, that's the way it always sounds on the virtual for all of the meetings.
So I do remember attending one and just talking and hearing absolutely no feedback, and I was like, okay, so. No.
Sorry, I think Commissioner Satini, did you want to come off and mention your comment here? You can explain it.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I have a
was
lot
that-
of background noise is why I off of mute, but just wanted to quickly just ask if she wants to reach out to us with the Rising Together Coalition. We're doing some parallel work with civic engagement.
Yeah, of course. No, I have not.
What did she say? I'm sorry.
The Rising Together Coalition.
It's a coalition of primarily nonprofit leaders from the West Side. They used to be the Heartland Resident Committee, but then they all became very doing their own thing. And so now they've sort of shifted and they've become the Rising Together Coalition, and they're working toward becoming more of an advocacy coalition. And really be, providing context and for and advocating for specific things based on whatever they decide they're going to focus on.
Wow, that is great. That's great news, because we're always trying to find those people in the community who are doing that advocacy work.
Yes, and so they're newer and they're learning right now what advocacy is and where, like how they can, where and how they can assert themselves.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to provide them with some support on, from your perspective on how they can do that at the city level, I think that would be great. I know that some of them, and correct me if I'm wrong, Licia, sorry if I, but did the like legislature 101 training, the women for ethical government, did, so that they could get a good understanding of what.
Okay, okay.
So anyway, they're
Yes.
this is a lot.
Yeah, she gave a heart.
Okay,
That's so cool.
They sent you her email to,
Okay.
gave her your email to telecom.
yes. So I have heard of, you know, those, kind of, the seminars or if you will, one-on-one. And that's great. No, I did not know about.
Rising together.
Rising to Coalition.
Coalition, yeah.
Okay.
But to-
Oh, that's
so you
great.
can remember to leave it.
Okay,
Well, thank you, Roxana.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a lot of work.
But please don't wait, a year or two, but.
We will. Yeah. Let's continue the conversation.
Yes.
Don't have to be back.
Fine.
Or maybe better to connect even outside of formal meetings.
Yeah.
Casually. So.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Okay. To see you all night.
Okay.
No, I think before, I think we'll be there.
Yeah. Well, moving on to item 5 of the agenda, commissioner policy updates. So a few individual commissioners have been looking at some things that turn the table for the Jenny Mayor Glenn from our education event that we did last year for the school on the west side. She's going to provide some updates on the place, maybe reports that was put together and sent in here.
So I did print 3 copies.
Okay.
But it's also in our.
Yeah.
Did you know? How did you know? That's exactly what we did.
No, I did not know. I was just like, odd number. Right, it's great. Okay. So, this was one of the things that we decided to do to support the families in Glendale that are talking about wanting a high school in the area. And so, this placemaking event happened in November. Claudia Loaiza, from Tejido LLC was the one that facilitated. And I thought she did a fantastic job. So I
wasn't.
Okay. So, and actually you can just sort of look through this, and if you look at the photographs in here, you can see that at the table, so there were probably 60 people in attendance. I think.
Yeah.
And at the tables, they had all of some of the initial questions were to get them to start thinking about like where their children would do their best learning. And then they had an opportunity to use all of these little items around the table to sort of construct a space where they could do their best learning. And so, and this is a placemaking approach that we've used for other kinds of things, but here are some of the key themes. If you look on page 4, what they would like to have is a school that feels like home. It's welcoming, warm, safe, and comfortable. Has natural light and windows, soft seating, quiet rooms, calm spaces for mental health and regulation, friendly adults at the entrances, not security alarms. Yeah. Another one is belonging and representation and culture. So murals, colorful art, and symbols from different countries, which actually in Glendale,
They do that.
right?
Everyone was like, we want a school like this.
Oh my goodness, it did.
Yeah, they all pointing to it.
Yeah, student work displayed, and I will say so columns in Glendale
Oh, yeah.
are painted with murals
Yeah.
that actually the students did. So when I was there as the assistant principal, they were white and they were getting tagged all the time. And so we worked with some artists in the community and they had kids, and essentially the kids painted murals on those and they have been not touched since then. So anyway, okay. Next thing, belonging was described not as a program, but as something designed into the space. So learning happens everywhere, in gardens, greenhouses, kitchens, outdoor classrooms, animal care, art, dance, theater. Learning imagined as collaborative. And then a school that serves the whole community. So models that, similar to a community school. So there are resources for families. And I would add to this, it didn't come out as much in there, but also like spaces for parents also to learn, right? But that's kind of what community schools look like, right?
Which spaces for parents to learn, like from the context?
Yeah, so community classes, and it can also be helping get access to adult education. So there can even be adult education in the space. So that parents are learning alongside students, maybe not the same room, but they're have access to the kind of education that they are needing or whatever. So and then
And so
the
the citizenship
citizenship
was talking about the citizenship
Yeah,
classes, like
yes.
it helps like the communities.
Community center, just general. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
But
that's cool.
yeah, they're close to set.
Yeah.
So space.
Yeah, and so anyway, you can read more about it from here. It was a great, really exciting. This will be used in the application for a potential charter school. And the next sort of, I know that they're talking about potentially the next thing will be to have a similar kind of event, and it can be part of or not, but to focus on the different kinds of learning that can go on. So there's lots of different project-based learning, for example, or these different kinds of learning, dual immersion programs, like all of these different things. So helping the community to understand what kinds of options are out there for them is kind of, I think, where they're going next. So the community engagement will continue to happen.
Okay, what's the timeline of the charter school application and what's
A proposal is due in June.
okay.
And the application is due in January. So the proposal is actually just a list of questions that comes from the community. It's a really basic, quick, and then the application itself is like 75 pages.
Is that the state charter in that?
Yes. Yeah, it's one of the agencies that can approve a charter.
Would a potential something like a feasibility study need to happen for that?
Yes, before that application is done.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and what that does is it just lends credibility to the application.
And then at that point, it's just the board makes the decision and then they fund it.
No, but gosh, if only it were that way, but they do, there is a lot of funding that opens up. at
Okay.
that. So if the application is approved, there is quite a lot of funding that becomes available, but there will, some of the barriers still are because the Salt Lake School District didn't support the idea to begin with. Unless we have an additional conversation and they're like, yeah, we can use one of the existing schools for potential.
Right.
There really is no property that's available.
Interesting.
So that's a conversation that we need to have. So that's a problem that we have that we need to have, that we just need to continue to have. And
I mean, it's the hope that if the state board were to approve it, that the school, Salt Lake City School District might be more amenable to making like a building available.
I don't know. The order of operation is always tricky.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be, I think the parallel conversations need to happen. Yeah, so,
Right, because they may not want
right, exactly.
chicken and egg.
Yeah.
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 This is really great report and does really capture the creativity and wonderful ideas that the participants had. Excited that,
Yeah.
Curious what the
I
cost
thought
is.
I attended the program and I thought it was really well done. And I think the most important takeaways for me was that it really brought the community into the process. It wasn't a top down, it was really more bottom up process of asking the community members, what do you want in your community? And it was uh, percolating a lot of ideas. What I found interesting is there was more discussion about bringing the environment outside into the school in a lot of different ways, both physically and culturally, and very little discussion, frankly, of technology, AI, or computers and things like that. Maybe that's just second nature to a lot of these participants. So all of that was really productive. I agree with Jen. There's huge barriers facing the community, not the least of which is funding it, finding property to hold it. Those are huge barriers, but at least the community now knows that as a commission, we care about them and we care about them being involved. And I think that was the most important thing from the whole discussion.
Yes, and I think it would probably need an RFP or something like that would need to go out. We need to identify kind of like what are the questions that were. And then, yeah, put an RFP out and see what.
What's your timeline? I've been trying to forward the choose.
Yeah, there should be one.
It's
We have to be clear. So I haven't, like, it would be great if it was done, like, by the end of the summer to inform the application that's due in January.
Anything else you want to share?
Oh, jeez.
I have a question and a statement. So of course, I don't know if it's like, if you can picture where we're located, East Liberty Park. So east is right in our boundaries, but a lot of the kids, what east of 13th East come down to east. And then there's all the kids west of 13th East. So my community council and the board really supports you all 100% for the reason of that we see this as a social justice issue and we really want to be helpful. We don't know how to plug in and we never have known how to plug in. Like I joined the marches. I've met you several times and you've helped me with so many different things. But our community would like to help. Now, to be clear, that we also come from a neighborhood that doesn't necessarily support it for the same reasons this group of folks does. They just do not want the perceived, Black and brown kids in their neighborhood, right? So it's really hard by us to distinguish those types of folks. And we all tend to be white. I have Latino kids, but so I invite you to help the community, help you in any way that you want or need your help.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Thank you. I would start talking to school board members.
and we try, but it's, T5 precinct 5 has been very difficult in terms of school board members. Well, so that's good to be.
Thank you. I will ponder that one and be more thoughtful about that.
Great.
Anything else you want to share, Anthony?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, David, with Commissioner Emily Fong being absent today, do you want to go to our last?
Do you guys wanna talk about it?
We have 5 minutes. Let's give David the floor and then I think.
Well, I would say the biggest thing for the land acknowledgement is to review it. Like to actually go through the links and see if it makes a compelling argument. All I'm gonna do to move forward with this is drafted into a letter form, but all of the context is this. So
Okay. Just so everybody on the call knows, like we talked about when we set our priorities for this upcoming year, Commissioner Khan has just been putting a lot of that information and research together. And we are working with her and Michelle, helping to put that into a formal recommendation for the council and a formal letter. So we're working, we're hoping Emily could talk a little bit more about that today, but she's not here. So just to translate that to everybody on the call, we will likely have sent something off before our next meeting.
So if we have any feedback on what percent of the agenda, what's the best way to provide that?
I would say provide it right now. So Commissioner Cron's not here because her grandfather. So she's her way to Oklahoma, so I'm assuming the indigenous side, because I'm pretty sure that's where her roots are. So that's why she's not here. So she did ask him to present on her behalf. But it speaks for itself. It's just kind of going, if you guys have feedback, or if you guys feel like, hey, this isn't a compelling argument. I feel like she did do thorough research. She included cities, not just Utah like institutions, but actual like governments that are.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. I just had, it's very nitpicky, but there's just one sentence that I don't know if I think is great, but.
What, did you wanna, so I can highlight?
Yeah, so in the section where it says, why is a land acknowledgement important? And there's a bunch of bullets.
Yeah.
And the very last bullet. I think. It's that last sentence, we need to build our mindfulness of our present participation. I don't really understand that, and I don't know, and I think it sort of takes away from the first sentence in that bullet. And so I would personally recommend getting rid of that sentence, not the first part that reminds people of the colonization, but just
Getting rid of the sentence.
the part about the mindfulness, yeah. Yeah, it just, I kind of, like, that just,
It feels.
I mean, I think I understand what she was saying, but I think it doesn't really need to be said, because I think the power of the first part speaks for itself, so. Yeah, I took it home. But other than that, I thought it was really good, and I thought it was a very compelling. Her explanation of what the land acknowledgement is and why it's important, I thought was really, really compelling, so, yeah.
Oh, is our goal to get to a draft ordinance that we can submit to the city council? And then
You
have
know-
them adopt it?
To my understanding, David, it's a process, and the first step is sending a letter. And then from that, it's up to the city council, able to engage on that further. So. This is the first step in the process, to my understanding of the questions I've asked. It's just the letter with the research and seeing if it's something that.
So are you asking us to provide comments like Pam just did about the
Yes.
letter?
Yes, exactly. If there's
Okay.
anything that you see, feel free to send it to Michelle, before we send something. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, David. And David, I apologize that we're running on time, but
I will
David
keep this very brief.
is-
Because I think the bottom line, which I will start with, is that we need to invite Andrew Johnston to one of our meetings, probably the next meeting, which is, I think, in May, and have him explain, as he did to me, the complexities that we're up against when we try to figure out solutions to homelessness in Salt Lake City. So I took Andrew to lunch. It was probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and pummeled him with a bunch of questions about what the city's position is on a lot of the legislation that's being proposed on homelessness and how to deal with the problem. I don't want to speak for him. I'll just give you my impressions. The issues, and I took him to lunch because he is the point person for the city dealing with this issue. And he has been very active with the legislature. He's been very active with a lot of community organizations. He thinks that it would be best to update us after the legislative session concludes, because it is, I don't want to again speak for him, but it's uncertain whether this facility, camp, detention center, whatever you want to call it, is even going to happen, because part of the problem is the funding of it. It's one thing to create a funding to build it, but it's another thing to create a sustaining fund to operate it for a long, long time. Who knows how long? Maybe in perpetuity. And that, I think, scares a lot of legislators because if they're going to start it, they don't want to spend 23 million plus dollars and then not have an ongoing source of revenue built into the budget year after year after year to sustain it. Plus, there's a lot of uncertainty around the program. How does it integrate with the existing resource centers that now exist? What do you do if you, in appropriate due process in our justice system, involuntarily commit people to this facility? Assuming you could overcome the legal issue, what do you do with people at the facility? How many people are really going to benefit from this in relationship to other people that are homeless for economic reasons that have nothing to do with mental illness or drug addiction or any of the other problems that are commonplace and talked about a lot in the community? I think if you asked Andrew, he would say that the population of homeless people that suffer from mental illness and drug addiction is actually a relatively small percentage. And most of the people that are homeless for economic reasons. They can't afford the rent. They have jobs, but the jobs don't pay enough so they can rent a place to live, if they could even find a place to live. So it's a very complicated problem. And I think it's important for us to hear from him before we kind of jump in and try to do something, which might be counterproductive to the city's goals. When I asked him, what is the city's position on homelessness? He said, it's basically we support anything that is effective and efficient. So he's not trying to, take an adverse position to this new proposal, but he is raising questions about its efficacy and its cost. And that I think is important. Besides, a lot of legislators now are coming forward with a lot of questions about it. So it may not even come to pass this legislative session, but the problem isn't going to go away. So we're going to have to find some sort of solution. So that's a long-winded summary of we really need to get Andrew coming to our next meeting and educate us about what we can do. And by that time, the legislative session will be over and I'll have a little bit more clarity about where the state is going on this issue. I do want to say one thing, though, that is important, and he'll mention this too. The mayor's office has taken a focused approach. And the way they're dealing with this is there are some homeless folks that are what you want to call repeat offenders. They are in and out of the system over and over and over again. They're on the street, they get arrested, they get taken to jail, they get set out. They're not incarcerated, they're put back on the street. And they're just continually cycling through this system. But the city has now tried to find the most repetitive offenders, if you want to call them that, and is trying to intervene right at the time they're incarcerated or detained and trying to match them up with caseworkers and with social workers that can help put them into programs that might provide solutions rather than just sending them back out on the street. And that is proven to be relatively effective. The downside is, and this is true of most of these programs, you're dealing with small numbers because it's individualized care. You can't really provide massive amounts of care for this population. You really have to deal with the person where that person is. And that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of resources. The Other Side Village is a classic example of how they make that work, but it's very individualized. And they're talking with small numbers, 30, 20, 40 people at a time. And it may take many months to get that population even to a point where they can be self-sufficient and occupy a home on their own and retain their jobs, etc. So it's a difficult problem. You can't really deal with it effectively if you deal with it in mass. At any rate,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
that's my report.
Thank you, David. Pam and I had talked about bringing it to the next meeting, so that is,
Yeah, that would be great.
yeah, that's something we'll do.
And,
Okay.
and it's, you, I mean, what you're describing is what was outlined in the plan that the mayor came and talked to us about. That was. Then last year when the legislature basically
Which
directed the city to do that. And so now it seems like it's being implemented, so that's really interesting to hear. Where that's gone. Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
50 people are involved in
In the.
in the public sector, like there's 15 people, individuals.
That's great. That's really great.
And I did wanna just share with you guys, with the whole like PD connection, right? Like this commission is like, I guess we wanna call it like the grandfather to other equity commissions. Where, I mean, that's an open door, right? If you have any specific PD questions, like they'll be there at the RAP meeting next week. Chief comes himself for his leadership. And you guys can bring up those questions too. I'm sure the RAP is already thinking about this. I have a representative who works a lot with African immigrants and refugees as well on that commission. So if you guys want to explore that overlap, that's the big door too. But I know we were like, hey, Roxanna, what do you know about PD? I can tell you, it's the same with their data collection. When people call, they're not asking like. It is a certain script. That's one of the things that the RAP is working.
With them.
Yes, so we want to know about our hate crime data, what the community partners can say, these pamphlets are out, but we don't know when people call to me, are they calling because it's pamphlet? Because like Roxanna said, I echo that, data is important. We're not collecting that kind of data, or we're not asking the right questions, we're missing a gap, so that's a lot of the things that we are trying to sharpen up, like how can we get better data? And I believe they hired a new data person to work and solely focus on this, so I'll make sure to get connected with that person in the department too.
Thank you. So, well. I'm gonna motion that we close the meeting. So.
Have to call for that.
Second,
It's a
Okay,
no power.
can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
so move.
Jenny, awesome. Awesome, well, that concludes the discussion.
Thank you. Good meeting.